LGBTQ organization march for the first time in Brooklyn St. Patrick's Day Parade. And in Staten Island, we're starting to see common sense and common decency. This is great, by the way. You know, I haven't tweeted something nice about a Republican in so long. I really haven't. And I found myself lifting up that phone, not only to thank Representative Max Rose, but also thank Borough President Jimmy Otto, who had to boycott this parade for taking a stand with the community. And something tells me that change will happen, and we'll all be marching in Staten Island next year. So let's begin. But if we can learn anything from the history of Irish Americans in this city, from Councilmember Danny Drum and Brendan Fay, it's this. We can never stop fighting, resisting, and advocating for the rights of everyone. The power of the grassroots will never stop, and change will come. The reality is that there's such rich political history of the Irish who came to this city and dominated and continues to play such a critical role in the political life of the city. As immigrants, they knew that the path for their children and children's children would be to stake a claim about the democracy of our city. And I really hope that we continue to tell the story of Irish Americans, not just how they got here, but the contributions they make. And through the power of politics and government, where the change really happens, in rooms like this, that is the story that we have to talk about. But today, we honor, on behalf of our Irish parade, our Irish Heritage event, we honor somebody who is that thought leader, who's a change agent. He's somebody who we like to call a lifetime activist. Someone who turned the pain and injustice experienced in his own life into a movement. Not just fighting for the rights of the LGBTQ Irish Americans in the Irish community, but fighting for marriage equality and to break the silence around HIV and AIDS that was killing the community around our country and the world. He's been doing this work for decades. In 1994, Brendan founded the Irish LGBT group Lavender and Green Alliance. In 1996, helped to form the Irish AICS outreach organization that has benefited so many. And after years of protests and arrests to have LGBTQ inclusion in the St. Patrick's Day Parade, in 1999, Brendan took matters into his own hands and started the Inclusive St. Pat's for All Parade in Queens. Unless you think that was an easy thing to do 20 years ago, it was not. It was something that people looked at and said, what is he doing? But that parade has been 20 years strong. And now because of his efforts, the Lavender and Green Alliance marches in the 5th Avenue St. Patrick's Day Parade every single year. And the reason I bring him here today is he has been honored every different way. Mayors, governors, people of all political power. But the one thing that's eluded Brendan in his storied career is he never got the ultimate proclamation. The proclamation that makes it all right. The proclamation that he will hang in his office, in his living room, for the rest of his life. Now folks, you too may get one of these someday. But on behalf of the 8.4 million people in this city, Brendan, I'm going to present to you now, yes, the Comptroller's Proclamation. For those who have this, they call it the Money Proclamation. So ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Brendan Fay. Okay, paparazzi, just give us a minute. Would you like to say something? Yes, no. All right.
Thank you so much, Garamila Mahagat. Thank you so much, Comptroller Scott Stringer. I woke up this morning, like every other morning, and I took a breath and I said, what a gift it is to wake up in our beloved city, New York. I'm an immigrant from Athy, from Drogheda, Irish, gay, and New Yorker. And I wake up every day and I said, what a gift it is to wake up in this city of so many people. Its bigness, especially its bigness of heart. Everybody talks about from budgets and buildings and this, but to me, the bigness of our city are the people. I want to say how honored I am to be here. I thank you, City Controller Scott Stringer, for your leadership, for your coming out of this office, out to the 5 boroughs and listening to the people of this city, and feeling the progressive impulse of our New York City, and for your political vision in bringing us forward with your politics of listening. Is so inspiring, and thank you for that. When I come to this office, I think of the impact of the City Controller's Office of New York City in Northern Ireland. I think of the McBride principles, which guides the investment and the consideration of New York City in how to invest. And the McBride principles are all about addressing sectarian prejudice and sending a message from the city across the world. The power of the Controller's Office sends ripple effects across the world, not just in our city, to Northern Ireland, to South Africa. And I want to thank you for the conversations. Sean McBride was also known for his leadership on peace around the world and nuclear disarmament. And I want to thank you for the important conversations that this office is having on nuclear divestment. That is what this office is about, is Controller Scott Stringer is a political leader who listens, who has conversations, and who acts for the future. I want to say how moved I am to be here. I arrived here like all immigrants. I arrived at JFK, not at asylum, but that was our way. I arrived afraid, nervous, lost, insecure. And it's like New York people scooped me up and went down to the village. As a gay man, I left a country where it was a criminal offense to be gay. In Ireland, we decriminalized homosexuality in 1993. I arrived in a country where you could be denied entry for simply being gay. That law was changed as well. I arrived down in the village, not to the Stonewall, but to a bookshop called the Oscar Wilde Memorial Bookshop, named after an Irishman. And I walked in, and the owner, Craig Rodwell, a great pioneer of our movement, asked me, what do you know about your Irish lesbian and gay heritage? I knew nothing but shame and silence, really. Unlike many other brave people back home in Ireland. It's as if this city scooped me up, took me, and unwrapped me, and helped me find myself. It's as if, like many others, I had to leave in order to find home. That's the beauty of the city. I am here with great gratitude for the community I've found. I call New York a place of friendship, a place of activism, a place of hospitality. So, from the Oscar Wilde, it was there actually I tell people how I found Jesus on Christopher Street. Jesus LeBron was manager of the Oscar Wilde Memorial Bookshop, a Puerto Rican from the South Bronx. My dearest friend to this very day. And Jesus brought me to meet his family in the South Bronx. I'd never met any gay person who was ever out to their family. That Puerto Rican family in the South Bronx gave me the greatest gift. And that's New York, what New Yorkers do for each other. It had such a profound impact on me. I could not wait to go home to my own family and be myself for the first time in our kitchen over cups of tea. That came from New York. I'm grateful for the woman Rose Schwally who sat beside me in the smoking section of the Aer Lingus plane when I came here first. She was an excited New Yorker who'd gone through pubs and taped music, Irish music. She said to me, "Brendan, when you get to New York, check out the Irish Arts Centre. That's where you should go." And I did. I love this city, because it was there I learned to speak my own language, Gaelic. It was there I learned to have conversations about what was happening in Northern Ireland. I love this city. I love the impulse of the city. Then I went as well, somebody I heard all about Dorothy Day and the Catholic worker, feeding the homeless, advocating for peace and justice. And so I went to the Catholic worker on the Lower East Side. I love New York. I love our city. I'm so grateful to be a New Yorker. And of course, now, look what we have done. It's a city of activism. And this is the year of Stonewall, 50 years after. And I'm so grateful. I am so profound as I look all around you and I see friends. Look what we have done. Look what we do every day together. We make this city shine and send ripple effects across the world. That's why people come. As an immigrant, as Irish immigrants, who have encountered prejudice and discrimination in our past, in our present, we feel an instinctive empathy for migrants, for immigrants, also at our borders and crossing our borders and arriving in our city every day. We think of children. We think of families divided, children separated. So what do we want to say is, we are all, in fact, what I would like to do, I'm going to close with a quote from President Michael D. Higgins. By the way, I should also say, gosh, my husband Tom, who could not be here, sends his love and regards. Tom, who's pediatric hematologist, oncologist, working with kids with cancer and sickle cell. I'm very profoundly grateful. That's really, my heart is full of thanks and it's very full this morning. And to be receiving this recognition, I welcome it, I accept it on behalf of the good people who shaped Lavender Green Alliance, who were arrested, who spoke up, who stepped onto the avenue. I love the Irish community. Someday the story will be told of the great Irish Americans who've been part of the civil rights movement in this country and in this city. In the words of Michael D. Higgins, President, we are all but migrants in time and space, transient travelers who must do our best to pass on to the next generations a hospitable ground on which they can flourish. Let us try to do it together. Garamila Mahagud, thank you very much.
Let me first apologize to the Deputy Consul General. I should have had Bobby follow, but unfortunately you have to follow him. But our great Deputy Consul General, Sean O'Hay, is here, and please come up and give us greetings. Thank you.
I think Will was looking for the Irish for a good morning earlier, so I'm happy to confirm that contrary to popular belief, it is not top of the morning to you. Actually, D. Vermagin. So D. Vermagin, everybody. Good morning. And I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much, Comptroller, for organising this breakfast. It's wonderful to see Irish heritage celebrated today and throughout this month in New York City. I arrived in September, so it's my first St. Patrick's Day season. We in the consulates I'm discovering it's a whole month of celebration. There's scores of parades and events, and I suppose like a good father has no favourites among his children, so a good Irish diplomat posted to New York can have no favourites amongst the parades, the many parades in New York City and state. But I have to say that the St. Pat's Parade for all has a special place in my heart. I was there this year for the first time, and it's wonderful to see such a celebration of modern Ireland, modern Irish America in all its diversity. And I suppose the wonderful thing about it is how welcoming a place it is, welcoming of all. And I think it's a lesson for all of us. I was struck when I was at an event at the New York Irish Centre last year. I am Irish, featuring photographs of mixed-race Irish people, and the organiser of that event was speaking from London, a mixed-race Irish person, and she was saying she went on the website of the Irish Embassy in London and there was nobody who looked like her, and she felt there's nothing for me there. And I suppose the lesson for us there, the Government of Ireland, the Consulate of Ireland, is to not only be sort of passively accepting of diversity, but we have to be openly, actively welcoming and inclusive of diversity. And I think the lesson of the St. Pat's for All Parade is there for us to all follow, that a modern Ireland and a modern Irish America must be open and not just accepting, but actively welcoming of diversity. So I wanted to thank Brendan for all that he has done over the past 20 years. As the Controller said before, it was an easy thing to do, and for being a lesson and an inspiration for us in the Irish community. So thank you again.
Let's give a big round of applause to our welcoming Deputy Consul General. Before we continue to eat, because under the city charter rules, we have to have everybody clear the entire plates of food, or the Controller's Office will audit all of you. I do want to just recognize a couple of people who are here with us. Patricia Loosley, former Commissioner of Children's Services in Northern Ireland, leading a delegation of 30 women attending the UN meeting. Norma Shearer, CEO of Training for Women Network, Northern Ireland's leading network for the promotion of women training and development. Vinnie Gaynor, business agent, Steam Fitters, Local 638. A great rising star who you're going to hear from in couple of years for sure, but he's doing great work. The president of the Hunters Point Civic Association, Brent O'Leary, is here. Welcome, Brent. Bill Meehan, the Queen's Pride Executive Committee. Give him a round of applause. Amy Faye, Executive Director, Sunnyside Shines. Carol Bullock, Executive Director, Staten Island Pride Center. Give Okay. All right, well, I'm going to give you another Staten Island, a great government leader, the Assistant Commissioner of Parks, John Luisi, and his wonderful wife is here. Jim Burke, out Rockaway, is here. Give Jim a round of applause. My good friend with that amazing smile. Patrick Conrad, Executive Director, the 86th Street bid in Bay Ridge is here. Finally, let me just say to the Controller's Office who puts on these amazing events, I just want to thank the staff in our office. They work 24/7, and we should just give them a round of applause. And with that said, eat, drink, and we'll see. No, you know what I'm saying. Eat, have coffee, and tea. Thank you all very, very much.